Welcome back to Quick Concepts. We are going to be doing perimeter today. This is kind of in our geometry realm of things. First of all, perimeter and circumference mean the same thing. So perimeter has to do with a polygon, rectangles, triangles, things like that. And it's just the distance around the outer edge of the polygon or whatever you're talking about. Circumference, like I said, somewhat means the same thing. You're just dealing with curves. So circumference is the distance around a circle. It's around the outer edge of a circle. Okay, so let's just show you a couple things. So let's say you have a square. And this is going to be, if you add everything up around it, you're going to have a perimeter that equals essentially 4 times 4, or 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4, which is going to be 16. Okay, now as far as the units in a perimeter or circumference are concerned, it's just one unit. So for instance, if these were centimeters, think of it as adding like terms. You're adding 4 centimeters plus 4 centimeters plus 4 centimeters plus 4 centimeters equals 16 centimeters. Oops, I'm writing 16 again, not quite sure why. Now the same thing works for a circle, except with a circle you have to you have a formula. So this is something you would want to have on your reference card or your reference notebook or your reference sheet, whatever you're using. So the circumference of a circle is equal to 2 times pi times radius. This is one of them. Or you can say the circumference of a circle is equal to pi times diameter. Now, if you don't understand what diameter and radius is, I hope you do for Algebra 2, but who knows? So the distance across a circle is its diameter. If we took a circle and we did from the center out, this is what we would call a radius or radii. Now, let's say you have a circle and you want to know the circumference around, the distance around it. It's going to have to give you either diameter or radius. So let's say we have a circle that has a diameter of 12. Then you would use this one, or you could cut the radius in half. The diameter in half to make the radius. So you could say 6 is equal to pi times 12, which is 12 pi, and we'll call this inches. Or you could do c is equal to 2 times pi times the radius, which is half of 12. And as you can see, you get the same answer. Now, a lot of times they just let you leave pi in the answer. I don't mind either way. It's really up to you guys. Sometimes it gets a little complicated leaving pi in there, especially if you have to subtract certain things. So you can go onto your calculator and you can just hit the pi button. So you would just say 12 times pi, or you could do 3.14. But anyway, so this ends up being 37.70 inches. So that is circumference. Now let's say you have something like this. This is the circumference of a semicircle. So it's half of a circle. And as you can imagine, you're just going to take the circumference formula and you're going to divide it in half. So this is essentially the circumference of a semicircle. And you can write that down if you want. To be honest, if you know a circle, you should be able to come up with a semicircle. But what happens when you have a shape that has multiple parts to it? So let's go ahead and try an example. So let's say we have something that looks like this. So as you can see, it's kind of like a rectangle with a or a semicircle. So I'm going to show the radius here, this here, and this here. So before we can actually calculate the perimeter, we have to figure out how long this side is and how long this side is. So if this is 3, then we know from here over is 3, right? Well, this technically here is 2, and across here is 2. So this right here will be 4. And of course, this is going to be the same as the other. So now we're ready to go ahead and do our perimeter. So I usually start at one point and work myself around clockwise. So I'm going to start at 3 up here. 3 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 2. Now I'm at the circumference of the semicircle. So I'm going to say plus 2 pi r divided by 2, or you could just put pi r. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my calculator. 3 plus 2 is 5, plus 3 is 8, plus 4 is 12, plus 2 more is 14. And I have to put my radius in. So again, your answer is going to be 14 plus 2 pi. And this is a situation where you would grab your calculator and you would say 2 times 3.14. This is going to give us like 6.28. And then you add that 14 to it. And your final answer is 20.28. And let's say this one is in meters. Remember, it's just one unit because it's like you're just adding like terms. We're just going around the outer edges. It's only one dimension. So that is meters. Let's see. Let's try a different one. Let's try this one. This one is a little more complicated. We'll do one more and then we'll stop. Okay. This is all 8 here. This is 2. This is 2. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out what is here and what is here. Okay? And even really what's here, what the radius is there. Well, if this whole thing on the bottom is 8, and we know this is going to be all 8 here and here. If we added all that up together, it has to equal the bottom. So we really don't even need to split it up. We just know that whole side, this plus this is 8. If you wanted to split it up, you could say 4 and 4. It doesn't really matter. Now for this, if this is 2 and it's swung all the way through, we would know this is 2 as well. So let's go ahead and do our perimeter. This is going to be 8 here and here. Don't forget these little guys because they drop down so they count as part of it. This is a semicircle. Then the 8 along the bottom. Then another semicircle. I know that that kind of freaks you out because it looks like, oh, wait a minute, you subtract it, but you really don't because remember, we just want this distance, just like we wanted this distance. So really, it's still 2 pi r divided by 2. Now what I'm going to do is add up the whole numbers. So this is going to be 10 and 10. So the perimeter is going to be 20 plus pi r plus pi r. And if you wanted to put those two together, they would be 2 pi r. And this time we're just going to plug in our radius. And the reason I could put those together is because the radius is the same. 2 pi times 2. So this is perimeter is going to be equal to 20 plus 4 pi. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my calculator and I'm going to go ahead and say 4 times pi. And that's going to give me 12.57. And then I'm just going to add 20 to it. And your answer is 32.57. And this one, the dimensions are given in yards. And again, it's just yards, one dimension. And that is it for perimeter.